All right, good morning. Once again, it is just me. I am disappointed that people are not coming to the video trainings. I know your schedules, but this environment, what I'm watching and seeing, are the people that show up to the videos really get more out of it because they can ask their own questions. But I understand your schedule, and I'm recording this anyway for you because this is so important. And it's something that I have been, the fear part. I'm getting the stress, I'm getting onto the stress bug, but I am now starting to learn much more about the fear triggers. So I'm going to cover both today, and I'll try to make this short enough that this is just really easy to listen to and give you an opportunity to ask questions. And I have a worksheet, Stress Management 101, that will be in the notes. So if you don't see that in your email, just send me an email. All right, so this is the reason I do talk a lot about stress. I do in my workshops. I um, do when I talk to people about coaching. One of the most disruptive emotions is fear. I mean, is stress. I'm sorry, fear isn't great either, but I'm going to talk mostly about stress because it's an overriding theme. I think that we almost have decided that this is the way that we're going to have to live, is with a lot of stress. And we do have a lot of things coming at us in our lives. And if we are business owners and working really hard in the things that we're doing, it's just natural that we feel physical stress. But what I'm talking about today are the places that are optional, or ways that we can dial down the way we're thinking so that we really look at the way we're thinking so that we are not experiencing as much stress. Our brains will always lean to negative, and negative emotions, when they kind of pile up, kind of create a stressful reaction in our body. And I call stress a cover emotion, just like overwhelm. Uh, it really is represents. I was just grabbing my notes. I'll explain it later, but I really feel like stress is like this overall emotion or kind of feeling we have in our body, but it's usually from experiencing anger that we're kind of stuffing, or frustration, or disappointment, or other sad negative emotions that we don't want to feel. So we kind of keep stuffing them down, and we start getting more jazzed up or more stressed. So, but I don't want to go that deep today. I want to make it really simple for you. And just remind you, the brain will always go on negative, and that you have an opportunity to manage it every single time. So, what I always ask my audiences, and I want to ask you now while you're listening, is what stresses you out the most? What really gets your attention? What stresses you? And I I have a cardinal example that I use in almost all my workshops because it was so clear to me. And I'm going to write it out for you since we don't have any live examples today. But you're welcome to play this with me on email. So give me the thing that stresses you out the most, and I will lead you through this worksheet that really fills out my thought model. So I'm going to explain the thought model just a little more today so that you understand my example. Circumstances are the truth. They can be proven in a court of law. If you're in a room and 5 people observe this thing happening, all 5 would say that the same thing. So a man was yelling, and that would be a circumstance. But the thoughts that come from those circumstances are very individual. So one person might say the man was very angry. Another might say he was really mean. He was going to hit that person. I'm at threat because he's yelling. I am not safe. You know, we all will react to the truth and the circumstances, the facts in our lives, in a different way, through our own lenses and through our own filter. And those are thoughts. Thoughts are the reactions to the circumstances in our lives. I'm going to talk about stress today, so this is going to be our default emotion. But thoughts that always create a feeling in our body. Today we're talking about that jazzed up, anxious, chest tight. I feel it more in my gut. Stress reaction. but every thought creates an emotion. Some are neutral, some are positive, some are negative. If you looked at the wheel, like a lot of coaches use a wheel of emotions, you can just start with positive, negative, then cover emotions like angry, sad, or happy, elated, all these. There's a lot of different ways we describe it. Sometimes we aren't very good at describing our emotions. We stuff them. And a lot of that time we experience more stress because we're pushing those down. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Every feeling causes a reaction. The reason I talk about stress so much is I'm helping people to lose weight or live healthy, well lives, live the most brilliant, healthy, self-cared life. And stress disrupts is probably the biggest, and fear also, but stress most of all is our biggest disruptor. It causes us to overeat, to buffer social media. I've just put a new limit. I've been buffering, put a new limit on my social media. You can do it on your iPhone, and that the app literally warns you and then blacks out when you've hit your limit. And I love what this is doing for me. Now, again, needing wine o'clock, that's another reaction to feeling a lot of stress, and over exercising. This may seem like it's really good, but I had a season where I was really jacked up because of some situations that were going on in my life, and a lot might have been fear also. And the only way to process those emotions, because I did not have a coach at the time, was to really get rid of them with over exercising. So if you're noticing that you're reacting, your actions from stress are not helpful to you, like they are not creating the results that you want, then this is the video for you to dig into. And it is for so many. So I just want to tell you, you're totally normal if that's what's happening for you. It happens a lot for me. But this is where we take our power back. This is where we react, our actions and results become different because we're on to what the stress causes without management. And then we create a new way to react or a new way to think, which is just key. So let me show my example. I was in a workshop with a group of sales professionals, and their circumstance was hitting their end of month goals. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong example. Let's see, something else. I'm just going to put life here because I asked the room. So the circumstance that someone shared was I asked them in their life, what was the most stressful thing? And the first person that came up was her commute. We think we need to change the commute because it's so awful. We think that commuting is terrible. A lot of us have that belief. But in her life, she was not going to change her job that day. So she had a commute in her life. That was a fact. That was her circumstance. So her thought was, I'm going to have a terrible day because I'm always late because of my commute. And I think this is getting too messy, so I am going to just start over. Love the garbage can, right? All right. So the T is commute. Oh, I'm sorry. This is not my day. My brain is not working very well today. I'm just a little tired. So the commute is the circumstance. The thought is, I hate my commute, stresses me out because I'm always late. And that caused the feeling of a really overwhelming. She was really stressed out as she walked in the office. And what did she do when she walked into the office? She shared a few things. She immediately ran to the break room and grabbed a coffee cake. She barked at her teammates, get to work, we got to get started, we're late. Then the next was that she'd rush into her calls with clients. I'm sure that was going well, right? And I think that was the only example she gave. But do you see how this thought she was thinking kind of as a belief? I'm always late because of my commute. I'm always late because of my commute. So she'd walk into the office, high charge, stressed out, freaked out. And then it would create, every feeling creates a reaction or an inaction. But in this case, the more high energy emotions are going to create reactions. And she would grab a piece of coffee cake, barked at her teammates because she was so stressed out, and rush into calls with her clients. And she would have a bad day because her commute was always making her late. Now, how do I know that it was only her thought and not the commute that was making her have a bad day? I asked her, it was brave. I did not know this woman. And I asked her, how many days was she late in the last work year? 3 days. But every day she was thinking, I'm always going to be late and it's going to ruin my day. I'm always late because of my commute. It's going to ruin my day. So she ruined her day from her thinking. Do you understand? I hope. This is so important. How we react to our lives is creating so many emotions. When we notice that we're really stressed out, or when we notice that we are feeling stress or having a lot of bad days, back it up and ask why. And that's what this worksheet does. It's like, what is stressing you out? Why? Why are you stressed out? Give every thought. You might have multiple thoughts. And then how does that thinking make you feel? And for her, it was just totally game on, stressed out. So backing up from the feeling of stress and really asking your why can really help you unlock this. Because this woman was suffering every work day of the year, and she only was truly late 3 days. And on those days, really, the world didn't fall apart, right? It never does. But our brain is trying so hard to protect us to, go faster. Oh my gosh, you're 10 minutes, like it's going to be the red line on your app is showing up on traffic, and it triggers this immediate belief. So how did I help her unlock that? And that's what's really key here is, what is another way I can think about my commute? And I asked her some questions, and I'll put that on here. What is another way? To think about this. And it helps us unlock and get creative and think of new thoughts. And we can do kind of some mind tricks here. Sometimes it's hard to believe that our commute is amazing. But I entertain, that's just a thought, right? We can think whatever we want to think. So if you want to really move, it's a ladder. You move from it's horrible to it's not so bad. I can listen to the radio. I'll call a friend. It's marketing this up to, even I love my commute because that's when I get my own personal time. We can move from I have a commute is really neutral. That's a place that a lot of times that's what place I have a commute. You hate your body and you're freaked out. I do a lot of work with this. We're really we're starting losing weight, but we hate where we're at. So I hate my body. Then the neutral thought that you think is I have a body. So she had a commute. But I also asked her, I said, tell me a little bit more about your life. Do you have kids? You know, what's going on? And what we created in that coaching moment was an opportunity for her to really capture that time. I said, how often are you calling your girlfriends? She had small children. This was her only 40 minutes. And I was like, I actually miss commutes because I don't have podcast time. I have to really plan for it. And I love podcasts. So this is where we renegotiate why we're stressed. Another really classic I want to share is I have a bad boss. And if you are not leaving your job tomorrow, you can't change that. You're deciding to not change that circumstance. Then you can choose to decide to think differently. I have a boss is a place to start. And to not always your brain will look for all the information to join this belief. Like, so if I think my commute is bad, I'm going to look for all the evidence of what's bad. If I think my boss is bad, classic stressor in the workplace, I'm going to look for all the evidence because my brain wants to be right. And this is where we interrupt the thought that's not working for us because it's not giving us the results. We have bad days. For people that are losing weight, if they're experiencing a lot of stress and they're doing this all the time, they think that they can like white knuckle it. Yeah, kind of nice to white knuckle it and say, I'm not having a coffee or cake. But sometimes we're eating behind our own back and don't even realize it. But if we dial down our negative emotions, if we're one of those kind of people that reacts to it, this is key. This is absolutely key, is just getting to the bottom of deciding to think that if this result is not working, to really decide to think in a new way. And it can start with thinking just neutrally. Now, I'm really enthusiastic. So even as an early coach, and even sometimes I find myself doing this, this is why mantras don't work. We don't always believe them. Mantras that we can believe really do work. But we can't jump from severely negative to severely positive in one step. Remember that this will be a ladder, it might be a ladder approach to you. Or like I jump to big beliefs in my business and I know that I like 50% believe them. That's another way. It's like I'm going to practice believing them, and even writing your belief, the new way you want to think about your commute, about your bad boss, about your life, about having a difficult child, anything is just that ladder approach. But it's like I have an amazing relationship with my child. And it may be like 20% believable, but you can keep working because your brain will look for evidence. God, I hope this helps. I hope you're listening if stress is a problem for you. And if you have any questions as you go through the worksheet, let me know if you need some ideas about how to turn this around. Again, we don't always turn around to Pollyanna kind of thinking, even though that's how my brain is wired, but it doesn't always work. So we start with very neutral. All right, so we just want to feel better, right? And the more we create thinking that makes us feel better, we're going to have about 50-50 negative emotions and positive. But if you're living a life where you have about 90% negative, this is a great exercise to kind of dial back the amount of negative emotion you're experiencing. All right, I'm going to talk about fear. We'll just segue. I don't like wasting paper. So we are going to talk about fear triggers. Fear, bright red, isn't that appropriate? Fear comes fast and furious, people, and it really works very sneaky in the back of our brains. It's different than stress, I think. I have to dig deeper to find out why I'm in fear. I think that's why this is different. And I have a concept that I call marrow beliefs. Marrow beliefs are things that our brain set it, like beliefs and thoughts that we thought usually at a very young age or after a particular very negative event. It might be from our upbringing. I'll give you an example of mine. I'm not quite sure how this laid roots, but it did. And I was very heavy as a child. I weighed 101 pounds when I was in third grade. And I do think that there was something from that as I went through school, because some of the experience of being teased, all of it was around school. And I really felt like I'd done something wrong, or that I was wrong. I was bad. It's like, that's how my youthful brain, it's like, yeah, you've done something wrong. They're teasing you because you're heavy. And then I'm like, I didn't even know that I was different. And it laid ground. So when I do brave things, and this is where fear is really kind of kicks in, when I do new things, I do brave things, that is my marrow belief that comes up. Oh, you did it wrong. You can't do this. You're not good enough. Like you're an imposter. So really watch this. This is a place where we can get triggered very easily. And those thoughts and beliefs are usually, not even usually, almost 100%. Anything that creates fear is a lie. And it's just our brain in a pattern that goes so fast and furious that we hardly really understand it. So I'm showing you that I understand mine. Girlfriends and boyfriends, all you men and women out there, this is from a lot of work. So I want to help you, if you've not been coached around this, that this is sneaky. So this is when you can notice and recognize that you're experiencing fear. And I'll explain it a little more why this goes on in our lives. Fear creates procrastination. We step back from things, like you walk into a group of people and you hide. You might be there, but you're hiding, right? You might talk yourself out of the great idea that you had on Tuesday, and you've talked yourself out of it by Friday. Now, there are great ideas that, like, I am an idea machine, and I have to really manage that because it gets me off my game. It really does. I think of 5 more ideas before I've actually executed the one I'm working on. And so, but when I have a big, like, really, I know this is something I should do in my business, and I start backing off of it, that is literally fear. I'm afraid it's not going to work. I'm afraid I'm going to do it wrong. I'm in a new space, and I'm going to talk about that. Backing off, most reasons we don't have tough conversations with our bosses, with workmates, with family, is because we're afraid. We're afraid of how it's going to all play out. And it's natural. It's natural. But when we learn to kind of walk through fear anyway, we start living a much more vibrant life. It's really, really true. We start really living what we most want. The clients I work with that are working around weight loss, the biggest fear is that it won't work this time, that I'm wasting my money, I'm wasting my time, and we're just afraid of being found to be foolish or fail again. But what does it do? It prevents us from taking any action at all. We step back. I know I was caught in this for a really long time before I went back to Weight Watchers and started my journey. And that journey was 10, 12 years ago. And, it took, like, I'll never forget sharing with my family that I was sneaking out my points book. And I don't do this way. That's not what I teach in my business, but that was the beginning of my journey. And I'm looking up and I'm like, how many points is my sandwich that I'm about to order? I'm on day 3, and I've got to tell my family what I'm doing. And my son and husband were there, and they both were like, oh, that's so amazing. And they became immediate supporters. They didn't think it was weird. And I kept being brave, eating when they weren't because I was hungry, or all the things I had to do. It really took a lot of bravery. I had no idea. Looking back, I had no idea how much it was going to take. It's easier to look at now. When you feel inadequate, that is fear. Like, these are just fear triggers, and they're fast and furious. We are feeling it one moment, and the next moment we're like, what the hell? Like, and we start backing up. So it's hard to walk through, but it's really worth it. And I do think it's important to dig in, and why am I afraid? Why am I putting things off? If there's some action that you're not taking in your life, if there's some backing up, why did I do that? I had a gal I was coaching about networking, and she was in kind of a space of overwhelm. But then she realized that the reason she went to a networking event, but she was blaming the networking event. And this is another, maybe a hint too. I blame other people, and it's really just my fear that backed me up. Or I blame that, oh, it didn't work. Or like here, oh, nobody showed up. Did I invite enough people? Those kind of things. And my fear will say, oh, you did it wrong. You shouldn't have done it. Well, I'm going to record this video anyway, and really teach the people that want to get relief from this. So really watch where you overreact. And what she realized as we talked about it was that she was afraid that the marketing plan that was all, like this big plan, and then she had decided to attend an event, and this was all part of the plan to be invited to this event, that she was so afraid it wasn't going to work, or afraid it was too much, and it was really creating a lot of overwhelm for her, kind of mini fear, that she backed off. And she didn't show up. She didn't even introduce herself to the host, which could have been the best connection, right? And so fear will make us back off from what we intend to do. Cold calling is a perfect example. If you can learn to be resilient in cold calling, if that is good for your business, or resilient in following up phone calls, I find I even hesitate on warm connections. And I'm sure it's like, I'm going to do it wrong. I might say the wrong thing. I don't know. Maybe they don't want to talk to me. And then I'll get an email from them like, when are we having coffee? So, like, don't back off of your life. Like, this is where we step in, Fear appears to be real. It is. It feels real. Allow it to, this is the what you do in the moment. You notice the fear, you notice the backing up. Be kind to yourself. Breathe it through and go, is this something I want to do anyway? And really just do it. This is where Nike comes in. I'm serious. Just do it. When we do new things, our brain is falsely trying to protect us from, for me, mucking it up, right? This is new, Diana. You've never called. I am in touch with a keynote speaker that's like badass. Like, I think she's amazing. And I want to interview her on my podcast. So I asked, and she said yes. But guess what? I haven't followed up. I'm afraid. What am I afraid of? She has said yes, actually. I'm afraid maybe I won't do the interview right. I mean, like, silly stuff. And these are powerful, amazing things I want to bring in my business. I want to bring to my podcast of inspiring CEOs. I want you to hear from amazing people that have worked through all this stuff. I want to be an inspiring podcast creator and coach. Like, do you see how lit up I am? That is absolutely what I should be doing. So if you get really lit up about something and your body just like totally wants to do it, and then you notice yourself backing up, just call yourself on it. And don't be mean to yourself. Be really kind and just do it. And I'm going to do it today. I promise you right now, I'm going to send my follow-up email with my scheduling link and get this done, because I think it's really important. And the practicing and doing of this will make it easier and easier every time. So why does our mind not be our best friend? I call it, for me, and I know guys out there that are listening, it could be the little boy. It's it's that voice in the background. I call it my little girl, and I picture myself in a car. And I am letting her drive when she's in fear. When I back up, when she's in fear and I let her drive, I back up, I procrastinate, and I don't do what I intended. But if I let her sit shotgun, or even I like putting her in the back seat. I don't know, she's a child. She needs the car seat. So and one other coaching thing, and this is so coachy, but I love it. And I think picturing these things in our mind, whatever works for you, is give her a sucker. Don't listen to her. She's a child. She's trying to protect you. You can love on her and say, I know you're afraid. I'm going to do this anyway. And don't let her drive, because she's going to crash your car. She's going to crash your car. If I let the little girl drive, I never would be here today. I wouldn't have a podcast, but I did procrastinate it. I didn't do it as early. I dug in and got very deep in my coaching, and I do think it created a foundation for my podcast. And I'm glad it really, it's how it worked out, and it worked out well. And I actually had the financial resources to pay for it. So, but we can see back and regret and blame, but don't. In the moment, do what lights you up. And you're going to notice you have fear triggers anyway. Do it anyway. Follow through. Do not put fear in the driver's seat. And I'm in the middle of really understanding fear. So you may even have some articles, some books that really resonate with you around this. And as I do, you're going to be hearing podcasts on this for sure. And I have had some, but I'm in the middle of the transformation of really understanding and not allowing fear to slow me down. I'm on a fast track right now. I am expecting and creating some things in my business that I know it's time to just fly. Just go for it. And I want that for you. Those are the kind of people I want to coach and be a step ahead of, and help you to do that, and also take care of your body in a brilliant, brilliant way. And so get some accountability, get a coach, right? One thing that I've added in my business, because I'm seeing the procrastination really slowing me down, is I have an accountability partner. And every week we are sending what we're intending to do. And Friday we're talking about what we did. And we're just doing it by email and coaching each other, because we're both coaches. And it is really helping. I'm noticing where I'm stepping back. So where are you stepping back? What are you afraid of? And our brain will, like, if you ask what you're afraid of, it's going to sound silly. Like, it's not silly to be afraid that there's going to be a terrorist attack tomorrow. But living your life out of that fear, not giving them my power, it's taking your power back. Because if you have facts that say it might be good to avoid a situation, think of CNN yesterday, right? You're going to you do want to wisely take action, But when you operate in fear, like I'm not going to go out today because of those bomb threats in New York, that's not serving me, right? So it's noticing where they're really pulling you out of a really great life. And be kind to that fear voice. The craziness of what thoughts come up is just crazy. I mean, it's really silly for me to think that someone has said yes in a message, given me her assistance email. Why would I not follow through? Why would I not just do it awkwardly? And it's fascinating. My most awkward sales conversations, my most awkward, if I'm meant to meet with someone, do work with someone, it always works out. It always works out. So I hope that this has helped you today. Buffering is probably the biggest thing that you'll do when you're in fear. Procrastinate or buffer. So just watch for those signs and let me know how I can help. I'm glad you're here. If you're watching the video, I'm going to get these all up and decide what to do for a masterclass for all of you. Thanks so much for listening. Okay, now I don't even know how to turn it off, right?